all to this webinar on unleashing your success in today's work space by the distinguished speaker today, the Bala Prasanna, the Director, IEEE Region 1, and also he's representing many IEEE organizational units and also a very well-known IEEE leader. So I warmly welcome you all to the webinar today, which is organized by IEEE PS Sri Lanka chapter, together with IEEE Industrial Electronics Society Sri Lanka chapter, as well as IEEE Robotics and Automation Society Sri Lanka chapter. And also I warmly welcome the participants from Institute of Engineers Sri Lanka, who has been a great support for us during other events and this event as well.
Good morning, everybody. It's a joy and honor to be with you. I heard from Akhila. I have mostly, but not limited to, the students and YP group of people. It's a body of youthful talent and energy. And of course, I do believe that you guys are out to make and shake tomorrow's world. As your speaker, I am ready and eager to share a few things in the next 45-50 minutes that I believe you should be aware of, and hopefully what you hear will help you make necessary adjustments to your thinking and behavioral practices. What you will hear in the next 45-50 minutes, like I said, some concepts are probably going to be repeated oftentimes, so that way it will stick to your memory. We will be talking about being relevant. We will talk about being resourceful. We will talk about being respectful, and we will also talk about being resilient. Okay. Of course, to this, we will also add a mixture of or a measure of volunteerism, which is what Akhila is doing, which is what many of you here, I would believe, you are doing. We will also talk about relationship management to be resourceful. We will also talk about continuous education to be relevant. We will also talking about whether you are a student or a young professional to create a track record for yourself, what you produce, what your results are, and so on like that. We will also talk about staying disciplined under all weather conditions. All weather conditions, whether you are upset, whether you are feeling very happy, whether you are in a whatever condition you are, whatever situation you are, how to stay disciplined. So those are some of the concepts that we will talk about in various contexts. So we have about 29-30 slides. This slide deck is available to you. Akhila has a copy of this one, so feel free to reach out to her or reach out to me. My email address is shown here. And if you have any questions, so again, I'll do my best to answer the questions, and it's an ongoing dialogue. I think Akhila will at some point talk about, see if there is value in having this series of talks, elaborating some of the points that we make in this particular presentation. So we will get to that later. The slide deck itself is organized in the following way. These approximately 30 slide decks. The first few are what you can call a picture is worth 1,000 words kind of thing, right? So some pictures there to see, why we need to do what we are here to learn, okay? And then the next bunch, you have some, what I would say, about 100 or 1,000, pick your number, ideas. Okay, of course, we won't be talking about all 100 or 1,000, but you will get a glimpse of some of those things. But it seems to be, in that category. And of course, we will wrap it up using some other things that we need to be doing, that we need to be thinking as IEEE members or in our own particular roles. Okay. Akila, you wanted me to talk about this picture, right? So I did visit Sri Lanka a few years back. I had a very great time exploring your country. It was always a dream to visit Sri Lanka since my childhood, and obviously that was not possible until a few years back. We did visit Colombo, Gal, Kandy, and everything in between kind of thing. So this is from the ruins. How do you say that? Panalurupu ruins. So that's where I got this one from. And of course, now the second one is the logo of your educational institution where you are a professor. Okay. Are you guys able to hear me well, Akila?
Yes, sir. All good. Thank you for having the
Okay.
picture. It's
Okay.
nice.
And the pace is okay. Am I speaking too fast, too slow? Let me know.
That's fine, sir. All good.
Okay. Okay. Now, this particular slide, this gives me a certain context personally for me. Okay. These are some of the things that always stay in the back of my mind that have shaped me in the past, I don't know, 45, 50 years. And that's what I'm sharing with you. And I hope this means something to you. I'm not going to go through each one of them, but I think I'll touch upon about two or three, and hopefully that resonates with you. Great things are not done by impulse, but by a series of small things brought together. So obviously, we are have the potential. We are destined for great things as we continue to blossom, right? But those great things, can be done when we get ourselves internally organized by some small things that we can continue to fine tune within ourselves. That's what it talks about. So when I mentioned about 100 or 1000 things that you're going to hear in the rest of the presentation, that's what it means. It is the way you speak. It is your vocabulary. It is the way you smile. It is the way you manage your relations with others. It is the way you produce results. It is the way how you handle conflict. So all these are small things brought together. You will be destined for greatness. Next one is this time, like all times, is a very good one if we but know what to do with it. So you can always, you have heard your parents and grandparents speak those nostalgic times, right? All the good days, that are not here anymore, kind of thing. But that's not true. So everything is a good time in that particular time frame, and also for the people who are there at that point. So if you know what to do with your circumstances, with your context, then it is a good time, and you can continue to make it a better one going forward. That's basically what it means. The next one is our problems are many, but our capacity to solve them is limitless. So obviously, our problems are many, right? Whether it could be people problems or it could be technical problems or any of those things. But we need to believe ourselves. We need to believe, we need to create an ecosystem for each one of us, because if we do that, our own individual capacity to solve them is pretty much boundless. Okay, you can make things happen. Okay, so there is the confidence that you need to have within yourself. Of course, to get that level of confidence, you need to do a few things. But if you do that, so it is possible. It is gets easy as you go forward. Okay, to solve the problems that are thrown your way. So that's the basic idea here. Okay, and the last one is you should aim for progress, not perfection, because nothing can ever be perfect in its true sense. But if you aim yourself for progress in the way, say, for example, you write, in the way you communicate, in the way you manage several aspects. So that itself is more important. That change is what is asked for within you, not perfection, because probably you can never get perfect, because if you do spend that kind of time, you may be missing out on many other things. I think that is the key idea here. Okay. This is something that I'm sure you guys can relate to it, right? Lack of a nail, shoe was lost. Lack of a shoe, the horse was lost. Lack of horse, message was lost. On and on. Finally, lack of a horseshoe, what happened? The whole kingdom was lost. So the idea here is there is a bit of philosophy here, right? Although as interesting, as funny as it seems, when your grandmother or grandfather may have told you these things, right? The idea here is, again, it is a small thing. If you had fine-tuned, if you had fixed, if you had that intuition, okay, to make sure that you needed to have a nail, that you took care of things, whatever you needed to do in the beginning, then you would not have had, lose your kingdom. Your kingdom is, say, for example, you have anger management issues, or you have communication issues, or you can't say the right things at the right time. So any of these things can happen, right? So that could result in you, okay, not getting the right promotion, or not getting the right recognition, or not getting the right project. Any of those things could happen, right? So that's the reason you need to pay attention to some of the things, these nail, the small things that we already heard about. Moving on. Again, here is another motivation, right? Sometime back, when I was at John F. Kennedy Airport, I saw this billboard: tomorrow will be nothing like today, right? So obviously you guys are living that, okay? And you're also participating in that. Therefore, you have a role. But this is the picture, okay? This again, slide further orients us to what we will be hearing in the rest of the presentation. We are all alone in this together. So two words here, alone and together. So it's always a team that you are a part of. The team has to produce, right, for something big that is impactful, that is meaningful, and all that. But you are also alone here, right? So you need to take care of yourself. That is important. Now, how do you take care of yourself? Career security through career growth, okay? So nobody can give you job security anymore, right? So you have heard it, you have seen, it happen to other people. But what you can be secure about is if you focus on career growth, then you can have the security that you need. Because if it is not one company, then it is always other company, other institution, and so on. But I think your career is what is secure. It's not the job. Okay. Now, in order for that to happen, of course, you need to have technical skills. You need to be current, relevant, and all those things. That is on one side. On the other side, you need to have pay attention to learn and practice soft skills as an important path for your career security, which is what you're doing today. The next important thing is driving your own behavior around values of importance to you. What are values of importance to you? That you need to be treated with respect, right? That you need to be accommodated, that you need to be listened to, right? That you need to be included. All these are values important to you. How do those things happen? Yes, you need to pay attention to relationship management, the way you communicate, the way you produce your results, the track record. All those things are important. When those things happen, then so that's the behavior we are talking about. So that behavior, which makes these things happen, will deliver, right? Then you are accepted, you are welcome, and so on and so forth. That is when this particular sentence is important. The next one is being relevant in workplace. Okay, we already talked about being relevant. So if you are not relevant in any given context, including workplace, then you don't have a game, right? Nobody needs you if you're not relevant. Okay. Now you are relevant because you're technically current, you are easy to work with, you have something to contribute. So you are a leader, right? You can see tomorrow or day after tomorrow better. So all those things, make you relevant in the workplace. Now, for you, again, to be relevant, you need to have your own personal management system. Personal management system is individualized. So what works for me may not work for Akila, or it may not work for Sampath, right? But it is important that we know to ourselves individually what works for me, and I stick to or I develop my own management system, which is, uh, am I a procrastinator? Then I should not be doing it. Do I get nervous when I'm speaking, in front of my manager or my manager's manager and all that? So no, then I need to train myself to basically, to get that level of confidence so that I'm not shy or I don't make big mistakes or anything like that. So as a part of this is the management system where you devote time to your own training, relationship management, creating a track record. All these things need to be taken into consideration. We talked about staying disciplined under all weather conditions. We talked about resilient. Sometimes, bad things happen. So how you overcome those bad things, okay? How you put on a good face, okay, on these things, okay? How do you swallow your lumps? Okay, all these things are important to be resilient. Okay, another portion of being resilient, hopefully we'll get to talk about it at some point during the presentation, is if you get a feedback that you did not expect, that you threw you off balance, okay, which is obviously not positive version of you, but in a weaker or a negative version of you, then how do you move forward? So how do you bring this resiliency, right? How do you swallow your lumps and then use that as a stepping stone to improve yourself? That is being resilient. Whole idea is, like it says, take yourself further. That is the mantra that you need to always keep yourself in the back of your mind. How do I take myself further than where I am? So it doesn't happen in a big enlightenment like it happened for Buddha, right? So it happens in small steps, and these small steps are doable. You just need to be consistent, you need to be disciplined, you need to have a personal management system. You do all those things, then automatically you have career security and career growth. Okay. Um, Again, words and pictures, right? We talked about it. So here is something. So what does this picture mean to me? What this means to me is, say for argument's sake, so I'm standing on, whatever, on the floor here. So I'm able to see some distance farther, and wider, right? So whatever. Now, suppose I'm lifted up on the stilts, like you see here, then what happens? I'm able to see farther. I can see more, okay, in more distance. I can also see wider, right? Suppose I'm lifted up even higher, okay, then I can see even farther and wider, more and more and more, right? What's the idea here? The idea here is, so whatever I am, okay, by my own education, by my training, by the company I keep, okay, I'm benefited to see something, around me. Now, if I have the professors or the mentors at the workplace or the managers, whatever, right? Uh, so they lift me up if I have the right company. So by that lifting up, I'm able to see farther and wider. Again, if I have more of, if I have more of that, then excuse me. I'm able to see even farther and wider. So this lifting up okay, that happens by the ecosystem of your own people around you, whether they are your professors, whether your teammates or college mates or office colleagues or any other people, is very important. When this happens, then you have the privilege of seeing farther and wider. When that happens, you know what your opportunities are, you know what your challenges are, you know how to process them. So all those things are given. So the responsibility that comes with that is, now that you are able to see more, right, you also have a responsibility to solve, to embrace those problems and be successful, be contributory to resolving those things by however you choose to do. That's the idea here. So you can have your own interpretation for these kind of pictures, but that's what it means to me. This is also sort of important. Take a step, there will be a bridge. It's more along the same lines, but said in a different way. So when you have, even as a student or as a young professional, right? So you will be given problems to solve, challenges. So they could be overwhelming. So you don't know the head and tail of it, how to begin, how to, go about it, how to deliver the solution within a time frame, and so on, right? So those things happen. So that kind of anxiety is normal, okay? But it is also important that you take a step to embrace the problem, to move on ahead, okay? Because it is your issue, you are assigned, you will be paid for it, okay? You will be compensated for it, so you own it. So you need to have that confidence, you need to have that in the back of your mind to overcome your own anxiety or whatever happens with that, because you need to have the belief system that you have an ecosystem, that there will be a bridge to get you across to the solution for the challenge that you are given. So what is the bridge here? The bridge, or the ecosystem that we call, right, is your team leader or your own colleagues that you work with, or your professors, or your library, or anything, so that is what you have given to you. It is there. It is up to you to recognize those things, to relate to those things, and to bond with those things, and to use those things to your advantage to solve the particular problem that you are assigned, that you are being paid for. So this is that sting, so that mindset is very important, that you own it, that it is upon you to solve the problem. But then again, you will also be benefited, along this. So it is not something, although you own it, there is a lot that's available to you with those around you. Okay, so that's the mindset we're talking about. Okay, so I'll do this one and then I'll skip to the next part of the presentation. This is also, again, another picture that you can develop. So the things that you see in this particular slide are low Earth orbit, halfway to anywhere. Those are the two things. Low Earth orbit is you are now, in this time, in this day and age, are familiar with these rockets, satellites, and so on that go around the Earth, say about 100 miles, 150 miles, 200 miles, or 10,000 miles, 20,000 miles, whatever, right? Up around the Earth, spinning around. So we get that, right? Now, what this slide is saying is the following. So to launch a rocket with a certain payload from the Earth, okay, and put it up in space, which is probably about 10 miles and over, right? It takes a certain amount of effort because you have to overcome the gravity. So to lift yourself up and then place yourself in the orbit around the Earth. Now, once you are there in the orbit, okay, from there to launch yourself to either moon or Mars, or even beyond that, the amount of effort that is needed is just about the same that you expended when you were lifting off from the Earth. Okay, get the picture. So the effort that is needed to lift yourself from the Earth, to place yourself about 10 miles, 100 miles, above the Earth, is about the same thing as you are already there 100 miles up. But now, you want to go to moon, which is much, much farther, far, right? Or Mars, which is even farther, or Jupiter, or whatever. We don't know what those things are. But that effort is the same thing. So here is the takeaway that you need to have. The first half, if you pay attention to that, the second half is something that you can manage. That's something, I don't want to say given, but it is something, it is easy. And of course, it is now taking you to all these unimaginable, right? Faraway places. What is an example here? An example is, um, let's say, I am a shy person, right? So when I speak to Akila or I speak to Lance Wang or I speak to my boss, okay, I lose my vocabulary. I don't know. I lose my words. I don't communicate what I intend to. So then what do? I just buckle up, right? Um, spend extra time, do research, anticipate the questions Akila would ask me, or my boss would ask me, or my team lead, whoever, right? So find the answers to those questions ahead of time, right? So, and on, you get the idea. So if I do that, then if I go talk to Akila or my manager or so, then I'm not so shy anymore, right? I have the confidence and so on. Now, so if I have that discipline of doing extra work, going to the library, speaking to a few people, anticipating the questions, preparing the responses, and on, right? So if I have that discipline, then it is not anymore, I can speak to Akila, or I can also speak to other professors or other managers, peers, or managers manager, so it just becomes normal. So the first half, which is I buckled myself down, prepared myself, that halfway work now results in the second half, which is I can speak to somebody beyond Akila. I can speak to somebody larger audience. If my manager asks me in a meeting, right, to speak to 10 people, I can do that. 10 people, I can speak to 50 people, or I can go to a large conference with 200 attendees. I can stand up on the podium and I can speak. That is the second half. You don't know what the destination is. Remember, moon, Mars, or beyond. So it could be, 10 people, 50 people, 500 people, or 1,000 people. It doesn't matter because you have the first half correct. Another example, right? So during my days when I was growing up, right? So I learned, I don't know if you guys can even relate to this one. There was a programming language called Fortran or PL1 or Pascal or C programming language and so on and so forth, right? So if I had spent time learning the constructs of the language, whether it is PL1 or Fortran or C or whatever, right? So what does a programming language do? What are its strengths? So how does it solve algorithmically some things that we need to solve? Okay. So if I have that thing, mm, learned very well, then the second half is I don't know what future languages are. They could be Java, JavaScript, or PHP, or Python, or whatever those things are. So it is easy to learn those languages because I know fundamentally what a programming language is about. So how a language can be utilized. Okay. So that way, the second half that you don't know about, but you are prepared. So that's the idea. So do the first part, put a sincere and robust and involved. Apply yourself to the first half. The second half is pretty much given, and that second half can take you to places that you don't even know exist. Okay, so that's the idea. Moving on. I'll pass this one. Okay, I will also pass this one. Okay. Okay. Now, so you're looking at this slide. So the idea here is, okay, when you go, okay, into, say, for example, new workplace or new situation, right? The idea here is spend some time trying to get the big picture. The big picture here means, so knowing who the players are, who your boss is, who your boss's peers are, who are your team leads and the other people. So spend some time trying to get acquainted. Rules of the game, unwritten rules. What is the big idea? What is this organization about? What do they produce? What do they consume? Right? What comes in? What goes out? What is its reputation? So on and on, right? Performance assessment. So don't be surprised every year. So at least once, sometimes no more than once, your performance is assessed. So you need to be prepared ahead of time as to know what you can expect. Of course, there will always be surprises, but to some extent, you can control it, right? So you cannot be taken too much by surprise here if you get a weak assessment of something that you thought was that you did an outstanding job. Okay, so those are the things, you have to get those early readings from your peers, from your manager, and so on, so that way you have a true performance assessment that will propel you in a positive way forward. Okay, so that is when these things happen, but you need to be prepared for that. You need to set aside some time whenever you take a new job or whenever you take a new project. It doesn't matter. So it sort of is applicable in different contexts, but you need to be able to do that. If you can do that, if you do that, you will be rewarded, you will be benefited. Okay. Again, there are lots of things, here. We're not going to finish everything. Let's pick this one here. You must always be training for the next level up if you wish to advance. So if we go, if we are working, we have a job and all that, right? So of course, we would like to be promoted. So move on to the next one, or we would like to get that next big assignment that will enhance our own presence and contributions and so on and so forth. So all those things, are rightful things. So those aspirations are correct. But here is the thing, right? For those things to happen, for me to get promotion to the next level, right? It is not enough. It is not enough when I am performing at the top of my game at the current level. If I wish to be promoted to the next level, what should I be doing? I should be seeking and performing at the level to which I wish to be promoted. Okay, so again, notice the difference. So it is not enough if you are at the top of your game at the current level. You need to be performing at a level that is higher, at a level that you wish to be promoted. How does that happen? Who is going to recognize you? Who is going to give you those assignments at the higher level? That's the trick. That's the trick part. You need to set it up. You need to have the confidence of the people around you to trust, to have them trust in you that you will deliver on that. Because when that thing happens, then what happens? It becomes easy for your manager or your manager's peers to make a case for your promotion. Right? So you get that picture, right? So you may not always be successful, but if you have your eyes set on it, if your mindset is about this, then you will be richly rewarded. So you need to keep that. It's not enough, okay, at the top of my game in the current level, but you need to be extending yourself, projecting yourself at the next higher level. That's the message here. Okay, I'll pick one more here, friendly and firm, right? So I know, we develop friendships and a certain level of, closeness with the people that we work with, that we people that we grow up with and so on, which is fine. It should be there, right? But when the time comes, okay, when you have to give a certain message, you need to be firm also. So to be able to balance being friendly and firm with your own behavior, with your own, the way you communicate, with the way you talk. So those things are important. So obviously, being firm does not mean being unfriendly, right? So you need to be sure about that, but you need to be firm also. So the kind of language that you use, so watch out, and that's something, learning yourself. So hopefully we'll have some examples as we move forward. Okay. This is a simple slide, but I think there is a lot loaded here. The first things are basic things that you probably always heard. Okay. So I'm going to start somewhere here. What you say and how you say is very important. You probably have heard about it. So very important, right? Establish how you want to be treated. We talked about this already before, right? You want to be treated with respect, you want to be welcome, and so on and so forth. For those things to happen, you need to have some specific way you communicate with people, you behave with people around you. So that is important. So pay attention to that. Let me talk about talking up. Talk up. Talk up is very important. So it's just two words, but it is a dynamite. Okay. Here is an example. Okay. So for argument's sake, Akhila works for me, let's say. Okay. So as her manager, I go to her and say, Akhila, this report is very important. It needs to be done by this Friday. Today is whatever, let's say Tuesday, right? It needs to be done by Friday. Can you do it? So then what does Akhila do? Akhila is, of course, a hard worker, and he has a good reputation and all that, right? Or probably not. It could be other way also, right? I don't know. Now, what happens is, depending on the person, right? So that person can say, Bala, I don't know if I can do it. I'll give it a try. So let's see what happens. So, and all. So that's what she tells me. Okay. Now, let's see what happened here. So I, as manager, it was very important because my manager, okay, is expecting me, is dependent, is looking for that report. Okay. And myself, this is how I communicated to Akhila. And Akhila communicated back to me in the way, what happened here. So she was not sure whether she was going to do it, whether she can do it, whether she can do it on time, okay, with everything that is being asked for. So for me as a manager, I'm still sort of, I'm not sure whether the job gets done. And I know, my, my manager can hold me responsible if this doesn't get delivered on Friday. But I don't have a level of comfort with the way Akhila spoke to me because she was not sure, right? Okay, so these things happen. So this is the way things could happen, right? Now, let's change the scenario. The scenario is when I go to Akhila, so Akhila, I'll tell her, Akhila, please, this is important to me. So please do it and have it done by Friday, 10 a.m. Okay. Now, that's all I said. This is talking up. When I said, please do it and have it done by 10 a.m., right? What happened here? I did not use words like, can you do it? The moment I said, can you do it, Akhila, it just gave her a way out. So she could basically say, oh, Bala, I don't know, I have too many things here on my platter, but I'll try to do it. I'll get it to you. So she could use those words. But when I said, please do it, she doesn't have an option, right? So that is how I can communicate. That is talking up. Just by changing a few words, you are creating a different level of expectation. And when you create that different level of expectation, then what happens out of that is also different, is also something, that is helpful, that is good for both Akhila and me. Because now that I said that way, Akhila got the message. She works very hard. She does whatever she needs to do, and she has it done. and delivered on Friday 10 a.m., if not sooner. Then what happens? Me as her manager, so I look at Akila and say, no, I just keep her in the back of my mind. Man, I gave her a tough job. So I knew in the back of my own mind, it was hard thing to do to complete in 2 days or 3 days. But she did whatever she did, but she gave me. So I need to, I can trust her with, bigger assignments, better assignments, or maybe, next time, the promotion comes up, I can keep her in my mind. All these things, happen all because of the way, we set up a communication mechanism between myself and Akila. And of course, we can always replicate it, right? So same thing is true. If Akila is trying to tell me something, so in this case, I did not ask her anything, but of course she's trying to communicate with me. So she's trying to say, Bala, I know, you as a manager, you have these things needed to get done. I don't know if I can do some of these things, but I'll give it a try. And so that's what she's saying. Now, instead of that, if Akila comes to me and says, Bala, I know, there is a lot, I think, that is happening as a team lead or whatever, I can sense certain things. So let me make your life a little easy. I'm going to give you these reports. I'll get this done. Maybe, this is how you want it. If not, just let me know. But I'm going to do these things for you. So that's what she's telling me. Look at the difference between the two. So in the earlier situation, she was using words that diluted her intentions and her capabilities. In the second instance, right now, she was using the right words that gave me the confidence, right, that she can do something. And even if some things do not happen, I can forgive her for that. But the way she communicated, the way she understood, so this talking up is very important, as subtle as it is. So if you don't take anything away from this particular presentation, so please at least pay attention to this part of it. So I hope you got something out of this discussion. The next one is, never go to a meeting unprepared. Otherwise, like, are you there filling up a seat and sucking up the oxygen in the meeting room? Okay. So if that's what it is, then you might as well stay home, right? So you always need to go to a meeting prepared, which means you should know what happens in the meeting. You should know, what is being discussed, how you need to be prepared, what to ask, what to get out of the meeting, what your role is, either expand your role or contribute to the meeting, any of those things. But the point is, don't go there just to take up a seat. That's the idea. The next one is ask questions, ask good questions, ask better questions. Very, very important. Again, if you take away anything from today's presentation, so asking questions. Okay, train yourself to ask questions. When I say, ask questions, these are not mundane questions. These are not annoying questions, right? These are questions with a purpose. Okay, with a certain defined intent. So that's what I mean. Once you do that, then you learn how to ask good questions. Okay, then you will also learn how to ask better questions. This is one of the early lessons I had the privilege of learning. When I was working in Bell Laboratories, I had the privilege of working with a few senior managers, or riding with them when we were going different places or something. So when I asked them, hey, what's the secret for your success? Why do people take you so seriously? And they fall head over heels, to whatever, right? So he basically, in some, way, this is what he told me, basically. What do you get by asking? Asking you ask empowering questions. It empowers you. Okay. So you can ask questions like, can that be done in a different way? So whatever is happening in the meeting or in a context, you can ask. The simplest question is, can that be done in a different way? Just because you ask that one, that stirs, that changes the whole dynamics of the meeting. All you did was ask the question. You can also ask something like, based on your experience, what do you suggest we do here? Okay, so if you have a situation, you can throw back that question. So that way, you are not pressuring yourself to come up with a solution. Rather, you are now crowdsourcing, right? So that decreases the anxiety or the tension you feel just because you ask the question. Okay, and on and on. You get the idea, right? So let's move on. Networking is important here. There is lots of things now that happen here, so I'm not going to go through each one of them. But here is the gist here. So of course, why do we need to network? So we need networking because so we want that job, okay, and we need a reference so that we could get that dream job or dream assignment and so on. So when we have the network, either people will point me in that direction, or will write me references, or will speak about me when the time comes. So all those things, nothing wrong with that, right? Everything is fine. Now, look at the same thing in a different way. Okay, let's take the example here, right? Sampath is Akhila's student, right? Now, Sampath, this is what, month of May. So I'm assuming, this is when you graduate and start, either try to find a job or have a job lined up in July, August, September timeframe, right? So now, Sampath goes to Professor Akhila and says, Professor, so I took these courses with you. I think, I did fairly well. I got 2 A's and 1 B. And by the way, I'm applying for this job with Microsoft or Google or TCS or whatever it is, right, in Colombo. Would you please write me a reference letter? You guys, know Akhila more than I do. Okay, of course, Akhila as enthusiastic, as eager to help, her students. So she says, Sampath, yes, I will do it for you. And of course, she writes a fine letter. Sampath gets the job. Everything is fine, right? No problem. Now, set that aside. Let's do this a little bit differently. Okay. What Sampath does is, okay, so back, instead of May, go back to January or February. So he tells Professor Akhila, so Professor, I know, you are very busy with your research work, with your mentoring work, with your class work, with your grading work, all those things that you are doing, right? So can I help you either, keeping your lab clean, or helping you with grading your papers, or getting a summary abstract for the research field that you're doing? So any of the things, that's what Sampath says and does. Okay, so he gives that thing, he contributes to the network of the professors by, contributing to the network. So then, anyways, so that's what Sampath did back in January or February. Between that time and May, he did actually, grade the papers or gave her the abstract, summary, whatever, right? Now in May, he says, Professor, so these are the jobs that I'm applying for. Would you please write me a reference letter? Now, just think about for a second, what kind of letter Akhila is now writing today with this scenario versus the original scenario. Okay, that is the mindset that I want you to have, which means it is good to network. So when you go to do networking, it is not, what do I get from the network? Okay, yes, you will always get something from the network. No question about that. But if your mindset is, what can I contribute to the network? So if you go with that mindset, okay, what you get will be enormously more, enormously better if you just have this small tweak and something, that to go with it. So I hope you got that point. Let's move on. Akhila, how are we doing with time?
We have another half an hour. maybe.
Half an hour? Okay,
Yeah,
that's good for
yeah.
me. Thank you.
It's
Okay,
okay, sir.
very good. Thank you. In this slide, again, there are a lot of things, that happen here. Okay. Uh, we can talk about this at different time through each of the bullets, but let me stick something, pick something here, right? Anticipate the future. You see that there, right? As a leader, okay, you should be able to anticipate the future. You should be able to see tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, or a week or a month ahead from now. How does that happen? You need to have the antenna, right? So what do you mean you need to have the antenna? So if you cultivate, okay, the right relationships, okay, with your professors or with your bosses or with other team leads, so you're able to pick up certain things, right? Which way the project is moving. What do you need to do? How to fix things? How certain things are working well or not working well? Okay, all those things. So, and then as a consequence of that, okay, certain things will happen. That is anticipating the future. You need to be able to do that. You need to set yourself up for that. That is one attribute of being a leader. Okay, deal with ambiguities. Can you rationalize fuzzy data? Okay, dealing with ambiguities, meaning, so a lot of us remember first in the first slide or so we were talking about progress and not perfection, right? So you won't ever get, as you enter into the workplace or other senior positions and so on, you always do not get 100% of everything that you need. You will be asked to make decisions, okay, based on a large amount of data, but not 100% of the data, right? So how do you work with that? Okay, you need to have that capacity. You need to have that a sense of confidence, okay, in the way you process that data, which is not 100%, and still, come to a decision, okay, that is helpful, that propels you in the right direction, that keeps you in the right direction, that helps you lead others in the right direction. So that is important. So you need to develop that ability, okay, to process ambiguities, to process something less than 100%. Okay, so think about it again. If the time comes, we can talk about more of these things, but that's something that you need to know. Be transcendent. Be transcendent meaning. So I'm here today. Okay, so the way I speak, the way I conduct myself, the way I have prepared myself, okay, transcends. So if you take me and put me in a different, say, a week from today or a month from today, okay, uh, so whatever I said there, okay, still holds whatever I'm going to say today, whatever I'm going to do today, or whatever my actions still are transcendent. Okay, so that is being transcendent. So that kind of um, mm, these different things that you do, okay, whatever those things, there are many of them, right, in different contexts, but still keep the permanence of those things is important. That is being transcendent. Own higher levels of confidence, right? So as a leader, okay, even when things are going wrong, okay, perceptibly, okay, you need to have higher level of confidence. Say for argument's sake, I gave this piece to Akila to work on that, right? So Akila is struggling because for whatever reason, it is a very complex thing, right? Or she needs to interface with another team, and that team has some difficulties. So, but it is upon Akila to somehow still make it happen. Okay, any of those things can happen. But given my own interaction, my own experience with Akila, so I know, whatever it is, okay, she is going to make happen. Okay, that confidence is there, that I'm going to relate, that I'm going to tell Akila also. Akila, I know, you are a little bit nervous, you are a little anxious, but I'm very, very confident that you are going to make happen. So in the meantime, if you need me to speak to the other manager to help you with that interface, I will do that. Okay. So that is the mark of a leader, right? So I can process even if Akila is nervous. Okay. I know, she can deliver. So I can process. So that is the higher level of confidence, not only with Akila or with people with Akila. You get the idea, right? So that is the leadership quality. Okay. So, and of course, you can get your own meanings with the other attributes that we have here. Okay, moving on. Conflict, workplace conflict, right? So, obviously, conflict is something that we don't want to happen. I don't want to have a conflict with anybody, right? So I want, sweet talking, and I want pleasant, and all these kind of things, encouraging me, or even if I screw up, don't go at me too hard, those kind of things, right? So that is the whole conflict kind of thing. But the reality is, okay, as you get into workplace or as you work through, get into senior level positions and beyond, right? So conflict is unavoidable and it is common. So accept that. Very important, right? Because so once you accept it, okay, then you will have a level of at least, okay, now that it is there, how do I deal with it? How do I prepare myself? Okay, what do I need to do so that I can work with these things? So that's very important. Conflict is unavoidable and common, so you need to have your own coping mechanism, right? So a couple of things. Negotiation, okay, is very important. So you need to be able to negotiate. So it's not like using the word negotiate, but it is the process, right? So how I work with that. So I need to, right? Even if I have a disagreement with Akila, right? I need to have a mechanism, okay, to reach out to Akila, depending on how the conflict was developed, right? And so on and so forth. So that is the idea here. So we need to accept now that there is a negotiation that is possible, and we need to be open. We need to be prepared for that. Okay. The bottom line is important here. Don't let conflicts and differences harden into resentment, hate, or anger, because small things could create some workplace resentment. Okay, just uh, whatever, right? So Akhila and myself, we drive to work together. Okay, so now we had, say, whatever, some discussion, about the work we were doing together and so on. So we left it at a point, where I took my stand and I did not agree with what Akhila said and so on. Fine, what happened? So next day, Akhila, had a family situation or something like that. So she drove to work by herself. So we were driving to work together, but today, she drove by herself. Okay, and here, I'm like, hey, what happened? Is it because of the way yesterday turned out to be? That's what I'm thinking, right? So again, the day after also, so there was something else, that happened, and Akhila, decided to work, drive herself, for and so on. Now, for me, it's like, okay, now Akhila is not my whatever friend anymore. So something, big has happened. So now how do I deal with it? Like, well, whatever I said to Akhila, I can't go back on that because I'm right, right? So that's the stand I take. Then what happens? So we already created an environment where in Akhila's situation, right? Uh, either she had, her father, she had to get some medicine, or take mother to a doctor or something, whatever happened, right? Any of these things can happen. So she had to take care of it, and therefore, she drove by herself, right? So now what is happening here is, this is something, a small thing, which just a telephone call or just a hello or a walk into her cabin and speak to her would have resolved. But then again, we just let it develop. So that's the point here. Don't let conflicts or differences harden into resentment and then graduate to hate or anger. So, because some of these things, just go, hey, what happened here? Yesterday, I thought you were going to call me if you could not drive with me today, then Akila would say, hey, I'm so sorry, man. I would have told you, but then again, this thing, came up, and then, I had to make calls to the doctor, seek the appointment, and I was so lost in that thing, so I could not call you. And that's the story she has, which is genuine, right? So in this sense, we forget about the discussion that we had, the workplace disagreement, because she also has processed it and said, okay, Bala, I think, what you said, sounds right. Why don't you go ahead with your solution to that problem? That's what she was in the process of telling me. But we never let that happen because we created our own. We let the conflict or differences, grow bigger, become hardened. So pay attention to this. So a lot of these things, can be resolved in simple ways. There is a um, uh, podcast that I made for HKN on conflict management. Akila has the link for that, so you guys, can get it once this presentation is over. Let me just read through, one or two or three points about conflict management. Okay, so hopefully, you take that as a takeaway from this part of the talk. So we talked about conflict, it's always there. We also talked about you need to have your own conflict resolution plan, right? So when you have this conflict resolution plan, engage in conflict resolution without inflicting damage. Very important. So when Akila and I, we have this conflict, right? I'm not going to badmouth Akila. Akila is not going to badmouth Bala. Okay, when she is speaking to me directly, or when she is speaking with Sampath or other people. Okay, very important. That is inflicting damage. So when you have that sincerity, so then your conflict resolution is genuine and you do make progress. That's one thing. Second thing, we already talked about it. Get over the aversion to handling conflict. You need to be able to, you need to prepare yourself, even if it is a gradual long process. You need to be able to handle conflict. So that aversion that you have, oh my God, I don't want to talk to Bala. He takes me on this trip. He says all these bombastic things, and I don't want to, just get me out. That's not the solution, right? So you need to tell Bala that you are, trapped. So can we talk? 2 minutes without, we need to have that level of comfort. I'm giving an example, but you get the idea, right? So the aversion to handling the conflict, don't have that. The last one here, claim your prerogative to ask what you think is right. So if you believe in something, okay, you need to make a stand. You need to be able to say that, hey, look, so this is the solution I have to this problem, right? So I did all this research. I spoke to these different people. So here is a solution. There are probably, what is it? 6 different ways to skin a cat. Not a good example, but you get the idea, right? So here is one way to solve the problem. May not be the best way, but still, I know it works because, it works, when I tested it, it works because, I spoke to different people, blah, blah, blah. So if that is what your thing is, you need to be able to put your foot down and say that. Okay, then people will respect that. They, then they include you. So that's how you avoid, or you handle conflict. Okay. Okay. The last part here is, about to bring the right emotions, insights, and instincts. Instincts are also important to conflict handling. Train yourself. You pay attention to yourself in the areas of emotions, your insights, your instincts. So if you have the right combination of these things, then, man, more power to you. You are on the right track to handling your conflicts. Okay, moving on. Okay. let's rush through these things. Office politics. So there is politics, right? You always have to play politics, but notice that there is good politics and bad politics. So that mindset, that clarity, if you can have that, it will help you. Managing your boss. What do you mean managing my boss? The boss is supposed to manage me, right? So here the idea is different. Managing the boss is, say for argument sake, Akhila is my manager, right? So I work for Akhila. So managing the boss, meaning, I somehow, I'm able to read her mind, just because of the way, we have the relationship set up, how she runs the meeting, how she communicates with other people, to me, or the mail message, blah, blah, blah. There's so many antennas, right? So knowing that, then I know what the expectations are on Akhila by her manager or by her peers or by other people. And then, I tend to work with that to her advantage. Okay. And I also know, if, for example, Akhila cannot go to a meeting, right? Then if I happen to be in that meeting, I can communicate Akhila's intentions, Akhila's purpose, just as Akhila would have done if she were to be there. I can do that. So that is managing the boss. That is reading somebody's mind. So if you are able to do that, if you can take some time and train yourself to do that, you are again, will be that much successful. If I am Akhila, then what do I do? Oh yeah, Bala, I can't go to that meeting. Can you cover for me? I have that confidence in Bala, right? That Bala won't screw it up, or he doesn't say things, that cast uh, Akhila, how can I say that? That doesn't underrate her or underpower her intentions, because Akhila has a job to do, right? She needs to be empowered. That when I don't undercut Akhila also, right? So all those things are important to the boss. So I take care of those things. Okay, that is managing your boss. Another small example is, say, for example, uh, Akhila wants to be communicated in a certain way. Text messages, or stop by her office room, have a conversation in her office, or coffee time, or email message, whatever it is. So again, if you have a different manager, you can have a different style of communication, but be aware of, what that communication style is and adopt to that. Then you will be successful. That's another area of managing your boss. Okay. The one more thing I want to communicate here is who are your angels in workplace? Very important. You need to have workplace angels. If you don't have, then you won't succeed to that extent. So it is important that you create workplace angels. Here is an example, right? So again, let's pick on Akhila, right? Akhila is my manager. So Sampath and myself, we work for Akhila, okay, on whatever project. So I go to Akhila and say, this project has been extremely hard for me that you assigned, but as of yesterday midnight, I was able to get everything done, and now it is good to go and all that. So what am I doing here with Akhila? So I'm trying to communicate to Akhila how good a job I did, despite circumstances, that were very hard and so on. So these could be genuine. Okay. So that's what I'm telling to Akhila. So Akhila says, okay, yeah, that's good, that we still have be able to make the bigger deadline. So that way, her own standing, her own expectation with the other group, okay, is still intact. So she feels, I think, okay, that's good. That's good, man. So I'm glad, you came through. That's what Akhila says. Now, Sampath. So he walks in there. Half an hour later, he says, of course, Akhila asks, how is it going, Sampath? And Sampath says, yeah, I think, things are okay. But, I got to tell you something, Akhila. So Akhila says, okay, what is it? So, you had given this assignment to Bala. I know, he did that yesterday by midnight or so. Uh, but if Bala had done that about 3 days before, we would have had a greater chance. My team would not have been anxious because now we are given very short amount of time to do what we need to do. Bala did not communicate with me his difficulties. Bala did not tell me that he had problems at his home that took him away from work or something. Otherwise, we could have worked other arrangements. So overall, I'm not too pleased with the way Bala conducted. That's the story Sampath is telling Akhila. Now, tell me, what Akhila is thinking. Okay, so now again, switch the story, right? So Sampath goes to Akhila and says, "So this was very hard. Bala did extremely, because this was something, we never knew, could be resolved in the time frame that you had given us. I'm so glad that Bala did, what he did, and he gave us, when he gave us yesterday night, that still, gave us, 2 days for us to, extra time to work these things. And I can guarantee you, Akhila, 100% our delivery will be made on time. The quality is good. So don't worry about it." That's the story Sampath is telling Akhila. How does that reflect on Bala, or the thinking that Akhila has on Bala? So that is the workplace angels. So no matter how I talk about myself to Akhila, okay, what matters is what Sampath says, not what matters is what I told Akhila. So that is why it's important that you have workplace angels. Okay, moving on. What is your brand, right? Everybody, goes to school, everybody gets a bachelor's or a master's or a PhD degree, but you need to be something special. You need to create a branding of yourself, right? You need to be something special. Okay, that's what this slide talks about. I'll just move on. Okay, here it talks about don't sweat the small stuff. There are some things that you should not pay attention, even if it is discomforting, right? So just move on, just let it roll down your body. That's all. It doesn't stick to you, right? So somebody criticizes me, so what? So you had a point of view. So either when you criticized me, it was helpful to me because that was a blind spot. I could not see it for myself. So thank you for the criticism. Uh, I'm not going to tell you, I will tell you that your criticism was hurtful or something, if I have a chance. But I'm also inside saying, like, man, that guy could be right, when he says, that I screwed up. When I said this way, it could mean that way or whatever, right? So that was a healthy criticism. So regardless, okay, so I won't let it bother me too much, right? Choose your battles wisely. So sometimes you have to lose to win. So sometimes, or making, everything, I have to win each and every discussion or a debate or anything, that I enter. If I do that, so even if because of my personality, because I'm aggressive, I'm assertive, I know Akhila as my boss longer than any of you guys. So I have the boss's ears. So because of my traits, right? And I also have this thing, that I want to win everything. If I do that, I'm actually, losing. So I can lose by winning because, say, for example, if Sampath happens to be there, Sampath says, well, so long as Bala is there, why should I work hard? Because whatever he says seems to play out here. So it's okay. I think, I'll just do whatever I do and not create a wave. That's what he says. So in that process, what happens? So Akhila or the management loses, okay, what Sampath has to offer. Okay, so that is why it is important for Bala, okay, not to make that thing, that is that thing, meaning, winning every battle, winning every war as his cause. That's not helpful. That's the idea. Moving on. Big stuff. On and on. Here there are many of these things. So I'll just take two or three and then we'll wrap it up in the next couple of minutes. Manage for results. We talked about it, right? Results are very important. You need to have a track record, because if you don't have results, you don't have a game. Okay, very important. Again, to get those results, we talked about million things already. So relationship management, right? Timeliness, the quality, how you speak about it, leadership, conflict, everything, is sort of, bundled into when you deliver the results. Okay. Don't burn your bridges. Okay, very important. You need to have, this also is applicable to conflict resolution. You don't say words, you don't say things, so that destroys your relationship permanently. Don't do that. Okay, always have something. So you can always say, okay, I don't agree with what you're saying, but let me think about it, tonight, and I'll get back to you. Okay, so those are some of the calming kind of things. Then you can always come back and say, yes, I can see your point, but the context is different, because my solution, I'm looking at it at these different angles. So allow me to proceed my way. So you still are doing it your way, but you're also telling the other person, say, if that does not work out, I may borrow aspects of your suggestion. So this way, you're not burning the bridges, you're making the other person feel good also. So that's important. You get the idea, right? Overachieve on expectations. You are students, you are YP, right? So you have that kind of time. So where, of course, this is always true, overachieve on expectations. But in your particular case, right, don't do 100% of what you're asked to do. Try shooting for 110, 120, or even more. Okay, so when you have the time, when you have the energy, when you have that youthful zeal and youthful vigor, so use that, overachieve on expectations. Okay, last thing I want to touch here is anger management. Okay, anger management is very important. Okay, how you write your email messages when somebody disagrees with you, or somebody calls you names, or whatever, right? Or you have a disagreement with your manager and so on. Here I have seen in my own Bell Labs or other environment, because Bell Labs is a lot of people, they have great degrees because they went to great schools, um, you know have great publications and whatever, right? So those things happen, fine. But then again, here you are put in a group, you have a manager, and you are tasked with something and so on. That is not 100% in line with your own publications, with your own interests, and so on. Now, so the boss wants you to do something. So that's not, again, in line with what you're thinking, how you want to spend your time, and so on. Now you start bad mouthing the manager at the coffee time, or water cooler, or any of this. Oh, my manager is stupid. He's not technical. He doesn't know what I'm doing here. I had no 3 publications in IEEE and 2 in ACM magazines, and my manager, he doesn't care about these things. He wants some stupid, silly thing, to be done, and all that. So here is what is happening, right? In the workplace, okay, when you act out of anger, when you say certain things, when you behave certain way, okay, when you have this, what is it, uh, burst of saying things, in um, uh, these contexts, right? Those things have consequences in a family setting. So when you have an argument with your sibling, with your uncle, parents, whatever, so those things are reversible. People forgive you there. But in a workplace, when you have the same outbursts, okay, whether through mail messages or spoken words or behaviors, okay, those things are not reversible. Just keep that in mind. That is why it is very important to control. It's okay to be angry, but you have to know how to manage that anger. Very, very important. How to manage that anger, right? So just because you're angry, you don't act out in ways that are irreversible. That's the idea here. Okay. example, right? So Akila again is my manager, right? um, so as her, a person in her team, so I screwed up something. Okay, I was supposed to write this proposal, which would have brought, say, $100,000 for the proposal, that she wanted to make happen within her team, right? As a professor or as boss, whatever, right? Now, somehow, like either I got delayed or I wrote something, the end result, it did not happen, right? So now I go to Akhila and say, hey, no, we did not get. So Akhila, okay, it can happen one of two ways, right? So uh, it happened because, uh, genuinely you made a mistake and therefore no, we did not get that proposal or whatever, right? So now um, uh, I can forgive, I can forgive Bala for that mishap because I know Bala did not mean it. I know it was a hard thing to get from this particular foundation. Okay, so it's okay. We tried it. Okay, that's what happened because of the way I conducted, because of how I communicated to Akila. Rather than that, so I go and say, this did not happen. So it's like then I speak to Sampath and anybody who would listen, saying, I don't know why Akila is making me do these stupid things. We never get a dime from this foundation. I don't want to be writing to them because it means I have to spend 4 days trying to do some research to put the proposal together. So Akila is really forgive me, Akila. Akila is, is whatever. She doesn't know what she's doing, and she's made. So that's the story I'm telling Sampath, or that's the story I'm telling others. What happens here? What happens here is sooner or later, Akila gets to hear about it, right? Akila is less tolerant, okay, in forgiving me because of this boo-boo, okay, just because of how I was channeling my anger. Okay, see the difference, right? So this is where reversible or irreversible kind of things happen. So it's very important how it's okay, like I said, to be angry, but to not let your anger control you, because once you submit yourself to anger, okay, then you have lost the game. Very important. Okay. Okay, so you can read this yourself. I'll move on. Okay, I think this is. Let me see. Okay, this is probably the last couple of slides. That's the last slide. So I'll just make a quick um, run through this one. When you're talking to your boss, so here are some examples. Okay, don't tell the boss this just isn't possible. That's not the language you should be using. Remember the talk up part I was talking about, right? Always speak in terms of what can be done. Can you extend the date? Can you go easy on some of the features? Okay, or can you add 2 more people? Can you get me help with that particular? Then it is possible to do. So that's the language you should be talking about. Bala goes to Akhila and says, I can't work with Sampath. Then what happens? So it reflects poorly on Bala. Okay, Bala should not make this Akhila's problem. Bala should find a way to work with Sampath. That's the idea here. Okay, but I emailed you about that last week. It's like, Akhila's manager has million things to do, right? There was something very important. So that she trusted Bala to make sure it happens. So then Bala says, oh, yeah, Akhila, I told you, remember, when we had coffee or I sent you that email message, if you didn't do it, it's not my problem. Of course, I don't use the exact words, but I mean that, right? Because I just said, like, I reminded you, last week. So it's your problem, Akhila, if you messed it up. That's the tone I'm setting. So again, here, managing the boss, remember, alerting by an email or whatever does not absolve you of your responsibility. I have to be, even if I become a pain to Akila, saying, Akila, I know, I sent you mail, about this last week. I don't think, you responded to this one because you did not, send me a copy. So I don't know if you did that. Could you please make sure that you do it today, because today 5 o'clock is the deadline. That's what I tell Akila. Then Akila says, oh my God, I know you reminded me last week, and with so many things, I forgot about it. Glad you reminded me. So I'll get this out in the next 20 minutes. That's the relationship we have. You can read through the next two yourself and make your own judgment, opinion about it. In this slide, passionate about deadlines, very important in workplace. Be a maintenance-free employee. I don't want, okay, if I am the manager, I don't want to be reminding you, that you need to do your timesheet, that you have some deadlines for your training courses that you must complete, that is mandatory from the employer. That I don't need to tell you that you need to show up for the meeting at exactly the time you are expected, not 10 minutes late, whatever. So those are, being maintenance-free employees. So I had to remind him, if that becomes the manager's job, that's not a good thing, right? Be a maintenance-free employee. Passionate about deadlines, promptness, response. Okay, I think, I'll skip this one, as important as it is. Students, so you have this one here. Please go through that yourself. I think I'll leave this here. Emotional hygiene. And this is the last slide. The summary of the last slide here is there are two ways you can choose, right? Like it says here, live and let live, right? That's one way you can choose to run your life. Okay. What that means is, well, I am who I am. I do what I do. So whatever you do, it doesn't bother me, kind of thing. But I'm not really, hurtful to others or something, whatever, right? But if you switch that, and if you introduce volunteerism in what you do, whether it is through IEEE, whether it is through mentoring programs, or whether it is, helping with the smart power kind of things, bringing, help with lightning a certain village, lighting a village, those kind of things, right? Being a part of those things, which is the idea here is live and help live. So there is a difference between live and let live, and live and help live. So if you are a part of live and help live through your volunteerism activities, more power to you. You'll have more satisfaction in what you do, and your life will continue to, be great, be rewarding, and be happy. So with that, I will conclude at this point, and thank you very much.
I don't know how to say thank you for all this great content, and it's, even though you took my name as an example, but I think most of the cases are relevant as we are struggling in our career for these different things, and what you took, I can really relate in most of the things. So thank you so much. And also I would like to kind of highlight like the first 2 points, like first few points you mentioned, like speaking to professionals, how you can get practice about it. So I myself feel that there is more to go. So when we speak to different people, we have to be genuinely expressing our ideas. So I must lose vocabulary sometimes. So that's an experience I also have. So that's great to hear the practical experience from you. And also having looking at the big picture. So when we teach students, always we say, okay, first look at the big picture, then it will be easy for you to go through that and understand what you are going to learn at the end or what you are going to achieve at the end. So that's really great that you took many examples on that. And also gaining the trust as a volunteer, even we need that. And we have a pool of volunteers who trust us. So that's the way that I see it, as a good opportunity to gain that trust and keep it in the best way that we could. And also, as you're mentioning about making the life easy of the managers or anyone in your team. So I would like to thank my volunteers under PS. So especially, I know Sajita is here from design. I even didn't ask them to do some things, but they think by themselves, and I was really relieved to have those volunteers. So that's one good example. Even I felt that when you're telling, so we need that support to go on with good work or impactful work. So moving on, like there are a lot that I can relate, and thank you so much. So I'll open the forum for questions. So we have our RS chair and also IS chair as well. I hope they have some words to express. So
yeah. Hi, thanks, Dr. Akshay, for the opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Bala. It was indeed a wonderful lecture, in the sense like it was kind of a, I don't know, like how to say, you have taken us through some sort of things that we do not get in most of the lectures or events that we usually comes into go through, like different events. So I mean, we have seen a different angle of ways how to look at your career, at your like industry or whatever the place workplace that you do. As Akila said, like I mean, this is applicable to anywhere. This is when you're working in the office, like when you're working in a company, or if you're a volunteer, you're working with the organization, or maybe even for the personal life. This could be taken as examples. So thank you very much for this wonderful lecture. So I have couple of questions, but maybe I'm not sure exactly they are related to the specific things that you mentioned, but given the vast experience that you have in the industry and as a like in your career and the life as well, is to think it as some advices for as a senior person to us youngsters. So I assume that the first question of mine is like, I assume that a person who has experience in industry for about like more than 10 plus years, and now he thinks where to move next. He might need to climb up the career ladder. So he might be thinking, where should I move next to increase my qualifications? Should I do a PhD or should I do an MBA? Can you like briefly explain a person in that situation, how to decide on which facts, like in very brief manner?
That is a good question, Apul. I think, like the question, the answer is actually, is tailored to an individual, right? The individual person really, needs to take the time out to assess himself or herself as to what are the strengths of that particular person. Is it research? Is it publishing papers? Okay, so along those lines, versus if you're taking, like an MBA kind of thing, then you are now, looking at more holistically, like, yeah, if you do PhD in some sense, just to make a point here, you are specializing, you are narrowing, then of course you can always continue to excel and make impacts that if you think, if you can make, you will do those things. If you are management, then you have, within you to look at this picture in not only your domain, but in the larger domain. Like, for example, if it is software development, then you talk about software testing, software maintenance, you have architecture, you have delivery, then you have the criticality of this one in a handling. So as a manager, you can oversee these things and see how I can make a product out of it, how I can make money out of this. If those are your strengths, then you take the MBA route. So either ways, I think you need to have a self-assessment, okay, to do that. And you can always, sometimes, if you are unsure of yourself, you can also say, look, this is what I think, I am doing. Do you see me differently? Okay. So this is where you have these mentors, you have other managers, other people, who can continue to guide you. But these are not simple decisions. Okay. Sometimes, some people are lucky to do both, have the cake and eat it too kind of thing. So if that works out, then it is good. So even if it doesn't, then you're still not limited. Just the very fact, that you have these opportunities that you can work with is a gift. I think, that you need to use carefully with thought.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Bala. I think that gives us a good insight about where to think. So I've one more like another question. Something related. Basically nowadays, like people think, okay, some of the we have some of the talented guys comes out of the graduate studies. They, as soon as they are done with graduate studies, most of the people move into entrepreneurship and all, taking a lot of risk. I mean, based on their personal lives, some of them can do that, some of them can't really due to the financial situations and all. Specifically in this part of the world, like when you're graduating, you have been with your parents. Your parents have been funding you for more than 25 plus years, and then you need to find a job to feed yourself rather than looking for a risk, taking a risky path like entrepreneurship or something like that. So given that fact, if we say like somebody has spent maybe 5-10 years in industry, and then he or she has become some sort of financial stability, and then what do you think if he or she has a really good passion to go become an entrepreneur? Where to, like, what are the facts that needs to, like, there is a checklist, there may be a checklist. Okay, these are the things that I'm good now, so I can move into entrepreneurship rather than working for a company. Like, are there specific things that you can suggest us?
I can't claim myself to be an entrepreneur. Okay, but I do appreciate the question. All the things that you mentioned are real things, right? Because whether it is in a country like Sri Lanka, or India, or in US, okay, wherever, parents pretty much have funded you through your graduation, and sometimes to go to graduate school and so on. So by that time, there is substantial loans or something that you need to relieve them of, which means you need to take the job and then get at least that part taken care and so on. But the ambitions or the life plans, if they include being an entrepreneur and so on, so it's always good to be connected, looking for opportunities, even in some small ways, in incremental ways, to be engaged. I think the idea of just going for this one big thing, like it happens or it doesn't happen. So if it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, then oh my God, like I'm stuck with so many different problems that have negative control over me. So if you can, if you're lucky enough to factor these things and move in some incremental way, so that you are managing, as best as possible, trying to be an entrepreneur in some small ways, or being a part, so of those who are doing it. So in that sense, you will be in that club, you will be gaining experience, you will be creating relationship. So then people have seen you in that mode of operation, so they trust you. Okay, so you're basically creating a ground for yourself. So I think in substance, if like you say, yeah, I'm whatever. So 5 or 10 years into my career, I know enough about what is happening. Then I know how I can change certain things by creating this product. Okay, so if you are at that point now, by going through these things, you have set yourself up to be more successful than otherwise.
Right, right. Yeah, clear. I think. Thank you very much, Mr. Bala, for the clear and nice answers. So I think that's pretty much all from my side. Thank you very much for your answers as well.
So we can keep continuing. Actually, we are planning to have a series according to this career development. Like we'll have a discussion internally and decide on what are the things that we can actually get out. So one nice question came with the audience as well: how to negotiate about the salary and ask for a promotion politely. So
I think we. I don't want to say we covered that already in some sense, but I think we covered that, right? I'm just capturing some of what you said, right? How to do it politely, okay, and then so how to ask for promotion or raise in salary, right? So now look at it from the other way, right? From the boss's way, right? So you're going and speaking to the boss. So how would you like your boss to react to you? So put yourself in your boss's shoe. Okay. Now, uh, what is it that you already are giving your boss to make that request go through? Okay. Have you been looked over, have been passed over other people with similar competencies, similar level of performance? Do you have that history behind you? Okay. Do you have a level of consistent performance where you did not miss any significant deadlines? Okay. Did you, in the process, create a workplace environment, okay, where other people, have welcomed you or accepted you as a de facto team leader, even if you are not? Okay. So those are some of the things. So if you have comfortable answers in those for those questions, then yes, you need to be polite and all that, but you can also have a certain level of expectation, which is a good thing, right? When you go and say, look, I have done these things now, now you have to do your part, manager. That's what you're trying to say. Of course, you say it differently in different words and so on, right? But the point again, you need to have the strength of those things behind you when you approach your boss. Okay, even when you say you're doing it politely, you have a certain level of expectation on your boss, certain level of authority also on your boss, which is very important. Okay, because that empowers you to do those things, right? So again, the same things, flipping on the other side, if I'm the manager, if I'm listening to you and say, yeah, Akhila, I heard everything you say, I, sort of agree. But then again, let's wait, what Sampath is going to say. But, I was thinking more about Sampath than you, Akhila. I'm not going to tell you that, but that's what I'm telling myself, right? So if those things are happening, then you walk out and say, hey, I talked to him about the raise, but he never really gave me any raise. He gave me some stupid 0.1% or something, right? So those things happen. But I think here, it goes back to when you say, that how can I do these things and how can I do it politely? So let's use that as the end result. There is a lot of work that you need to do before that. So pay attention to that one. So that is something that you can do given the time space that you have, whether it is 2 months or 6 months or 9 months, whatever it is. So be cognizant of that, work with that, produce results, produce better work environment, produce something that is your core strength in terms of yeah, this process would run for 2.5 hours to produce this many search results or whatever. So now I tweaked it so that now it can do it in 2.5 minutes. Okay, so something like that. And if you do, so have those stories to tell and create your angels who can say those things even when you are not there. So they will strengthen your argument. So I hope I gave you a convoluted answer that's helpful.
Yeah, I think Jarat is also got the idea, and also it's really important, like you mentioned, about giving back to the team or giving back to the workspace and asking for what you deserve. So that will be the process that you should go through, not just about asking the direct way. So I think we have one last question.
Sure,
Yeah,
no problem.
Thank you very much, Bala. Like I'm representing RA Sri Lanka chapter, and thank you very much. Actually, like all the details, all the experience that you shared, they were like really close to our life. So we can learn a lot. Like maybe the examples you took and everything were like perfect for us, and we learn actually. So I have like one small question. Sometimes it might be like a little bit like stupid one. But the question is like, as volunteers, like we are engaging with a lot of volunteers. All these volunteers, they are doing like they are not getting paid, and they are doing all these volunteer work for the self-satisfaction. And sometimes what I used to do is when I get any kind of like work done by any volunteers, I'm trying to give them some compliments and appreciate their work, what they're doing. And like, do we have something similar to those kind of compliments in the like in the field of like industry? So where the workspace, like the managers are like maybe appreciating the fellow worksperson and like trying to get more and more maybe work from the fellow colleagues. Are there like any related things, like because I feel like as a volunteer, like when I engage with a lot of people in IEEE, most of the time, when I give them the compliment, so they feel like we really appreciate their work, and also they're like trying to give it once again, like another go in their next attempt as well. So we can get more and more like maybe beautiful work from their efforts. So do we have like similar incidents in the maybe in the workspace, maybe where the managers and the fellow work persons are doing in the industry? Just to get
Let me see if I can answer it this way. Like you said, like in the space of working with fellow volunteers, right? As a lead volunteer, you're able to appreciate these other volunteers who did good work, timely work, and so you appreciate them with some nice words. Okay, sometimes with probably a paper certificate. Okay, or sometimes with some other material reward, like like a cup or plaque,
Anything gift?
something like that, because for different people, it means different things, to be appreciated, because some people like to have these plaques on the walls or on their bookshelf. Some people are, depending on the size of the appreciation, size of what was done, and so on. So, but those recognitions are important to create a culture of somebody like that, to communicate that their work is appreciated, and that propels them to do even more. Okay, and they're also, what is happening there is they're also, seeing you as an example, okay, to do that themselves when they are tasked, okay, when they are working with other volunteers. They are deriving from your example of how you appreciated, how you showed that appreciation within your own means. Okay, as a volunteer, you don't have too many things. You can't pay them, right? So, but I think, you still made the effort to say the right words, and wherever you can, you gave them a plaque, you recognize them in your holiday banquet or during your picnic when you were done. So there's so many different ways. The important thing is you made sure, that it leaves a good aftertaste, okay, with that person, and by extension to other people also. Okay, so that is why that is important. Now, the next part of the question. So now here is a boss. Okay, so the boss is working with people, and of course, the people on his team are highly motivated, highly charged, highly productive, and so on, right? So he needs to recognize them. Okay, fine. So as a boss, as somebody who pays your salary, okay, so he has several things that he can do. Even then, as you probably have heard in a workplace, there are still, even as a boss, because of the company policies and so on, so that they will be limited, right? Because there's only so many promotions that he can give. There is only so much raise that he can give, right? So those things are real. Okay, but the boss can also show appreciation by giving you the right kind of assignments, okay, by casting you in a light, okay, that is helpful to you, and that being spotlighted uh, keeps you. So if for example, right, so when I say, you did a great job in a group of people within my team, okay, and say, this is why I think you did a great job. So then I'm also communicating to other people. The other people also get a lesson out of it, right? So then you are in some sense already empowered. So next time, then because of that empowerment that you have with your colleagues, you can do more. So use that empowerment to your own positive benefit. Don't abuse it, but use it. Okay, so I think what I'm trying to say is so what does the boss can do? So we already talked about whether he's probably, if he can give the raise, so he will probably do it. Give the promotion, probably will do it, or not, we don't know, right? So, but if I say some right things in the right context, in the right group of people, I'm empowering you. So that is a big reward. So think of it that way, right? So use it to your not advantage, but use it to the benefit of not only you and the people around you. That's one thing. The second thing is, he could be rewarding you also, even without you knowing. Okay, because when that manager is speaking to his own peers or other people in his or her own private meetings that you are not a part of, he could be telling things about you in a positive light. So I have this guy working on this one, so I trust him completely, so things are going to happen. So so that way he's again uh, he's creating a lot of goodwill about you, for you to work in that organization. You're welcome not only in your team, but by the other team also. So those are all the rewards. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but those are the ways a boss can reward. So if you are that boss So hopefully you are doing those things, or you will do those things. Okay. So of course, if you're the CEO or somebody big, then you can always make anything you want happen, right? So
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Bala. Like I believe like maybe each time like we should be able to like match the two cases. How we treat the volunteers, and maybe as the managers, how we treat our the fellow workspersons. So
that's correct. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, thank you very much, and thank you again for IEEE again for Mr. Bala for maybe delivering this particular session, and also IEEE PES Sri Lanka, and maybe IEEE IES Sri Lanka for inviting us to be a partner with this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased, Akila, that you indeed made this happen. So thank you.
Thank you. It's a great
I
honor
look-
to have you, actually. So that's from our side. And when you put this into your words, like your examples, it feels like, okay, we knew this, but it's not the way we knew that. We didn't see those points in that direction. So that's what the kind of the best part, that we can continue these discussions and these webinars. So thank you very much.